woman was diagnosed with hypertension at the age of 32. Despite being active and otherwise healthy, she adopted a whole food plant-based lifestyle, reclaimed her health, lost excess weight, and then she got pregnant. A series of stressful events pulled her back into the old damaging habit. She found herself really lost, knowing that she wanted to get back on track and just wouldn't do it. Her journey of self-discovery led her to success. She's dedicated her life to helping other women overcome similar battles of self-sabotage, confidence, procrastination, and much more. She is one of my true plant-based heroes, ladies and gentlemen, Christin Bummer.
Well, thank you so much. What a warm welcome. I appreciate that. It's our affair didn't start quite the same way that I remember it. You're making me blush, but that's all right. It's fine. So yeah, so you got the snippet of my story. So I'm going to just elaborate a little bit so that you can understand a little bit more why it's important to me to be here and to be able to share with you all. Pauline, your initial comments in the beginning about what if nobody shared with you, where would you be? That is such a profound message, and I hope that everybody hears that and takes that to heart. A lot of times we feel like we don't have enough to share, maybe we don't know enough to help other people, but my goodness, if you're here, you know something and you have the ability to share that with other people. So I hope that you do that. I was caught very by surprise when I was 32 and I was diagnosed with hypertension. And when my doctor handed me a prescription to get on medication, I was terrified because I really knew what that meant. My dad had been on high blood pressure pills since he was 19, and cholesterol is high. My mom, same thing. My grandparents, same thing, had all died. My grandparents had all passed of some kind of heart-related problem. And I had diabetes in the family as well, and a little touch of cancer here and there. And so I thought that I was leading a really healthy lifestyle. I was doing all the low carb stuff and lean protein, and I was working out all the time. And I had no idea how wrong my previous training and education in nutrition was. And thank goodness somebody shared with me, somebody had told me about this book called The China Study that talked all about the link between dairy and cancer. And when I heard that those two words in the same sentence, I was really confused because I thought we were supposed to eat dairy and drink dairy in order to be healthy. It's the only place to get calcium, right? So I was so confused by this whole thing and really intrigued. And when I looked into it and learned, oh, there really is a link between dairy and cancer. Look at that. It set me off on this whole journey of wondering what else is out there that they're not telling me. And so when my doctor handed me the script for blood pressure meds, and I said, no, thank you. I'm going to try this plant-based thing I just heard about. And he was kind of supportive, but he also said, if you come back here in 6 months with the same blood pressure, you're going to need to take the medication. And so I accepted the challenge. I like a challenge. And I went all in. I learned everything I could possibly learn. I was completely obsessed. And I started a blog actually a long time ago when I was first learning this, because I just assumed there has to be other people like me who were interested in being healthy and interested in an option other than more pills. So I invited people to join me in my journey. I didn't know much other than I was learning as I went, and I shared everything I possibly could. If I had a megaphone, I would be out in my street, you know, screaming to all my neighbors, and just inviting people into this amazing lifestyle that ended up offering me so much freedom. So he gave me 6 months, and I went back in 4 weeks with a perfect lipid panel. My blood pressure was perfectly normal. My cholesterol, triglycerides, everything was spot on. And I lost, well, I was on my way. I lost probably about 10 pounds in the first month and another 5 in the next month or something like that. And I felt amazing. And the strange thing to me is I had no idea how crappy I was feeling before, because that had just become my normal. I'd come home after work and crash on the couch, and my husband would shake me awake for dinner, and then I'd fall asleep again sometime later. I had headaches all the time, aches and pains, all this other stuff that I just thought everybody had. I just didn't realize that was optional. So I opted out of all that stuff, kept going with my healthy lifestyle, and did really great until the pregnancy, when things went haywire. I had a whole ton of other crazy stresses in my life. We were selling a home, building a home, selling a business. And that's when I was due to have my baby. We were moving into our house that day, in the new house. And it was just so much chaos and stress in my life that my diet that used to be such a priority went out the window, kind of, not completely. But I started getting into a lot of junk food and vegan junk food to cope with all the stress that was going on. And right after that, as if that wasn't enough, I had my daughter's wonderfully fine and super healthy, but she had some early complications right after birth. We wound up back in the hospital. I was a total basket case. And then when she was 6 weeks old, my father-in-law was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And it threw our whole family for a loop, of course. And only 6 weeks after that, we were burying him in the ground. And all of this life, everything that I just described to you, happened in a span of about 3 months. And it was more than I could take emotionally. And I'm a pretty strong, confident, solid person, really balanced. And I was just into the junk food like crazy because I didn't know what else to do. I'd given up alcohol by that point, so drinking wasn't an option. So I really struggled for a long time. And then I got to my daughter's first birthday. She's 1 year old. If you saw the before and after picture that went out with the PBNSG email, that picture was taken on the morning of her first birthday party. And that outfit I'm wearing was full-term maternity clothes. So here she is, a year old, and I'm back. I'd lost weight initially, and then I was back, I gained again, and I was wearing full-term maternity clothes. And to me, on that day, now I know, and I pass no judgment here, I know people who carry baby weight for 18, 20 years sometimes, right? And that's fine. But for me, it wasn't fine. And that was a really defining moment that, oh my gosh, she's a year old, and I'm still wearing maternity clothes. Enough. This is done. I know what to do. I know all this stuff. I'd been vegan for years. I've been whole food plant-based for years. I've been into all the conferences. I knew all this stuff. I was sharing all this stuff. I wasn't quite coaching at that time, but I could have been. And yet I wasn't doing what I knew to do. And that just tormented me. So I went searching for answers. And that's when I learned about, really basically about processed food addiction and about the difference between being plant-based and whole food plant-based. And I thought it was whole food plant-based all along, but I really wasn't quite. And so when I made those changes and I really took everything to the next level and I embraced a whole lifestyle, not just obsessing about my food, but embracing activity again and living in gratitude and stress reduction and sleep and all of the things that create the healthy, well-balanced lifestyle, that's when everything came back in line. And that's when I realized that I needed to share that with other people, because I felt like there's a lot of people like me who know the stuff. They could spout out nutrition facts all the time, but they're missing some of the keys to implementation that really make the lifestyle just click and work. And they make it easy as opposed to just struggling through, just making it through day by day in a really uncomfortable way. So that's what I do. That's my story. I know I teach and coach and speak and share as much as I possibly can. At one point, I was too busy doing one-on-one coaching, and so I created an online training program so that I could help people. Everything I was doing one-on-one, I can do one-to-many, which allows me to help so many more people. So I have an online training program called Transform You. Paul, is it okay to share that here? We didn't even talk about that. Yeah, I think that's a yeah. You're muted. Okay, good. Thumbs up. So my program, my company is called The Forever Diet, and my flagship program is Transform You, which is to help people implement a whole food plant-based lifestyle so that it is fun and enjoyable. And actually, I'm super excited. We just released a brand new app. You guys are among the first people, like today. Actually, I did another seminar earlier today, but learning about this, we're releasing this to the public. because we've released a test drive version. So you can get in completely for free. I don't want your credit card. I don't need it. I just need your phone number and your email. And then I can send you the app and you can test drive it and see what it's all about, learn as much as you can in the first few days. Check it out. And if that's interest to you, then, then I'd be happy to help if there's any way that I can. But that's my jam, is just helping people who really want to enact this lifestyle and just are having a hard time. So I can probably put the link in the chat here, but it's theforeverdiet.org/test-drive-TU, TU for transform you, and it's hyphenated. So it's test-drive-TU.
Hey, Brett, why don't you grab that from Kristen and we'll put it out there somewhere on PBNSG as well.
Yeah, Kristen, if you want to just post that in our chat. Yep, there it is. Perfect.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm really excited because a lot of this stuff is out there and people just don't quite know about it. And if it's a fit, then there it is. So
exactly.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, wonderful. And let me just say this to everybody, and then we're going to introduce Andrew. This is so exciting for me, Andrew. Oh my goodness. You know how during this time we're all doing a lot of reflection. And this is a small group. This is a virtual small group. So to me, the whole idea, which to me, small group was the Fabergé egg of PBNSG. If we did nothing else and we just had small groups, I was good. That was good enough, because I know what it meant when 7 years ago when I put a $20 ad and met 20 people who were just like me. And for the first time, I felt like, wow, like they don't really understand me, but they understand me. They didn't know me. They don't have a history with me, but they knew that here I am 7 years ago on an oasis with nobody around me. Now I got 20 people, of which 12 are very involved, with the organization. So now what I love about Kristen and what she said is that we are here to help people. One thing I've learned in reflection over the last 6 months is, it's amazing. 7 years later, I still miss certain foods. I still think about them. I mean, I'm not crossing lines because I want my help, but I think about it. And it's such a struggle at times for so many. And you need an army. You need to have a PBNSG small group around you. You need to have that if you're going to kick that habit or take it up or be accountable for something. So I'm just saying, for everybody who's here for the first time, we're going to have some big announcements coming up, but just give you a little quick heads up before Andrew jumps on board. One of them is we're looking into broadening a health coaching piece around the organization. We all could use some help. So Kristen, along with a whole bunch of other health coaches, have been holding back. We hopefully will be creating the back end of it as we speak. When that's done, then we'll be announcing. Also, if you want to join a small group, let's go on the website, join, be part of your community and trying to improve your health. So a lot of excitement going on behind the scenes, but right now, the most important thing I tell everybody is just be safe, get through this, just get through it, okay? You know what to do. We all know what to do, just do it, okay? It's a struggle. I haven't seen my wife a whole lot. I'll tell you just personally, we spent 4.5 months together down in Florida. And it was the first time in 20 years that we actually were with each other every minute, every day. And we're like, wow, it could go either way. Well, man, it went great. I had so much fun with her. We were just best buddies and just enjoying each other's company. And then got back here with COVID, and she had committed to watching the grandkids. Well, now they're like in a petri dish, those little kids. So she's now there 2 weeks, and then she has to self-quarantine for 7 to 10 days. So I get to see her 3 days of every month. All right, we're all adults. You know what I do for those 3 days? I'm not telling you. All right, my point here is that let's all just get through this. Okay, guys? We know what we got to do. Well, this has been a long time coming. I've been stalking Andrew Spud Taylor for a lot of years. And the thing that I kind of got my attention was, I think that people have said, I am crazy giving up meat, dairy, and oil, especially oil. Just crazy. You can't, you got to be crazy. This guy gave it up and just ate potatoes. What a whack job, huh? Crazy. I was like, I love this guy. Didn't even meet him. but I already cared about him. You know, it's kind of weird. And then we spoke a few times, and then just, you know, the way fate is, we were gonna fly him up. He was gonna hang out with me for a bunch of days. And then COVID came, we had to shut it down. And all of a sudden he gave me a shout out. He's like, hey, let me talk. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to ask. You're in, you know? But so you're gonna just love this story, but let me tell you a little bit about him. Andrew Taylor's story went viral when the world caught wind of then this 36-year-old Aussie dad who embarked upon a quest to eat only potatoes for the entirety of 2016. But to assume, as most did at first, that this was some clown doing some crazy thing and unhealthy on a whim for 15 minutes of fame was to miss both the perfect logic of the experiment itself and the exceedingly powerful and timely message Andrew brings. Hint, it's never and not about the potatoes. In late 2014, the former junior Australian champion marathon kayaker was in the depths of despair, and yet another failed attempt of a lifelong of dieting left him even heavier than before, 151 kilograms. By the way, how much weight is that, by the way, Andrew?
It's 336 pounds.
What? Sorry, seriously, what? Oh, okay. Well, Andrew, you sure don't look like that now, man. You look great. All right.
Thank you.
Wow, 300 pounds. Man, it's a lot of Andrew right there, I'm telling you. From his black hole of clinical anxiety and depression, desperate to be the man he hoped his young son could look up to, he had empathy and was a food addict. Okay, logically then to Andrew, who thinks outside the square, he should treat his food addiction the same way you would treat any other addiction, through abstinence, or as close to it as you can get. Armed with a degree in applied science, human movement, and a fascination with all things nutritional related, the former high school physical education / health teacher spent 6 weeks researching the perfect food before he settled in on the humble Spud, just in time to begin a whole year break from thinking about food starting in New Year's 2016. With the media frenzy that followed his Spud Fit challenge, the story became an opportunity to help thousands of other food addicts deal with their own food psychology issues while losing weight and getting healthier along the way. Andrew's first short book, The DIY Spud Fit Challenge, a how-to guide to tackle food addiction with the humble Spud, was co-authored by his beautiful wife, Mandy Van Zennen, and helped many people break the shackles of food addiction. His second book, Spud Fit, a whole food, potato-based guide to eating and living, is a collaborative effort between him and over 90 contributors, many of them giants in the plant-based nutrition science and around the globe. Andrew now spends his time coaching others through food addiction. Though his course is informal and informative, YouTube videos, his blog, and a steady expanding Spud Fit community, along with Mandy, he is also a sought-after speaker, a natural interviewer, hosting groundbreaking events such as Rich Roll, James Aspey, Doug Lyle, Alan Goldhammer for his podcasts. In his spare time, Andrew doesn't spare time. He instead wrangles around with his 2 sons. One day he hopes to be able to have a minute to think in peace so he can think about what might be like for him with that peace. Thank you so much. And Andrew, it's been a long time coming, and I'm honored to have you speak. Everybody, Andrew Spud Taylor.
Thanks so much. It's very kind words, and I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Okay,
Yes.
so thank you very much for the introduction. That was great, and I'm honoured to be here as well. The honour's mutual. I was obviously disappointed that I couldn't make my way over there to be there in person and hang out and have a good time. But yeah, this is the next best thing. So yeah, that's. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today, since I think a lot of people here probably already know my story. If you don't, then you just go to my website, or you've got the background from Paul's lovely introduction there anyway. So, you know, you can check out spudfit.com if you want to know more about my story. But I always say with the people that I coach that knowledge is power, but it's useless if it's not applied. So A lot of people here probably know, you know, we know what we should be eating, we know how we should be eating, but, you know, we still have trouble making it stick, and we have trouble, you know, we can go for a couple of weeks or, you know, a couple of days or whatever, and then we start eating other stuff, and, you know, it's hard to stick with it. So I thought I'd just go through a few things I learned from my year of eating only potatoes, and you know, these are the sorts of things that come up a lot in my coaching, and, you know, hopefully I can help some of you guys watching to get through those tough times when cravings pop up. So the first thing I want to talk about is what I call the first eat potatoes rule. And for the purposes of whole food plant-based eating, you can sub the word potatoes for whatever healthy food. But because I was eating only potatoes at the time, it's the first eat potatoes rule. Now that came up because when it was maybe day 3 or day 4 of my year of eating only potatoes, and I was driving home from work, and I was really, the cravings were huge, and I was really upset, and I was just having a terrible time. And I was driving home from work thinking, this is just a ridiculous idea. This is stupid. I don't know why I decided to do this. Like, I'm an idiot. Just, this is over. I'm finished with it. I've had enough. This is the worst idea anyone's ever had. And I pulled into the car park of McDonald's like I usually did on the way home from work. And when I went to McDonald's, I would park in the car park, and I would eat there. And I was vegan already at the time, but not obviously whole food plant-based vegan, just, you know, eating junk food. And I would go into McDonald's, I'd get 2 large fries and a large Coke, and I would sit in my car and eat them. And then I would leave the wrappers. The reason I sat in the car park was because then I could leave the wrappers in the bin, and I could go home and there'd be no evidence in the car for my wife to see. So I planned on doing that. I drove into the car park. Day 4, I'm done with this stupid idea. And as I went to get out of the car, I glanced at my passenger seat of the car, and I saw a big box of potatoes, cooked potatoes, ready to eat. They were cold, nothing exciting, but they were there. And I thought to myself, if this is really about hunger, then I've got the solution to my hunger there. So I can't tell myself that, you know, I got hungry and I needed to go into McDonald's. I don't have that excuse available. So what do I need to do? I need to make that excuse available to me again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to eat all those potatoes so that when they're finished, then I'll be able to say I was hungry and I didn't have any food and I needed McDonald's, and that'll be my justification. So I grabbed the potatoes and I started eating. And it was a lot of potatoes, like maybe 6 or 8 potatoes. And it took me a while to get through it, maybe 10, 15 minutes of solid eating. I was trying to eat because all I wanted to do was get rid of those potatoes, so then I could tell myself, I could justify to myself that I didn't have any food with me. I needed McDonald's, and that would, you know, that'd help me to sleep at night. And so I did. I got through the potatoes, and it was hard. It was a lot of food, but I got it down. And then once it was down, I put the box down on the passenger seat, and I went to open the door of my car to go into McDonald's and get the fries and Coca-Cola. And as I opened the door, I thought to myself, hang on, I don't actually want McDonald's anymore. Like, not that there was no battle involved. I didn't have to say, no, you can do it, you can be tough. It was just like, you know, it's easy to say no to something that you don't want. And that was the position I was in. Once I'd eaten those potatoes, I just didn't want McDonald's anymore. I was fine without it. So I thought, oh, that's weird. And I closed the door and I went home without eating McDonald's. And then the more I thought about it, the more it made sense that because I'd filled up and I was really full of good, healthy food, it had satisfied, you know, my hunger and all of that. And I just didn't want McDonald's anymore. So that became my first eat potatoes rule, that anytime I have a craving or some sort of desire to eat something that wasn't potatoes, I could sort of play a mental trick on myself and say, yeah, it's okay. You can eat the chocolate cake. You can eat the big cheesy pizza, whatever. You can have it. No problem. But first, eat potatoes. And then from there, you know, once you've eaten the potatoes and once you're full, you can have whatever you want. And the beautiful thing was that once I was full, I never wanted anything else anyway. So there you go. There's something that I hope can be helpful to you guys. That's something that's endlessly helpful to me and to the people that I coach as well. Now, another trick. Tell me guys if I'm going too long, but I've got 3 more things that I wanted to say, and then I'm happy to answer questions for as long as people have them as well. But yeah, whatever works. So the next thing is what I call the cravings gym. All right. Now, if anyone goes, you know, a lot of people talk about that you need to have a pristine environment. You need to get rid of everything from your house that's junk food that you shouldn't have around. You gotta make your home environment pristine. Nothing is allowed in that you can't eat. And I agree, that's a good thing. If you can do that, that's good. But some of us live with other people that don't want to do that. And some of us just don't want to inconvenience the people around us by forcing this way of life on them. And that counts for me. If you go upstairs right now to my fridge, open the fridge door, you will see on the top shelf of the fridge door, there's chocolate there. It's always been that way. Well, not always, because usually we'd go shopping, we'd come home with chocolate, and then by the time it was bedtime, I would have eaten all the chocolate. But these days, there's always chocolate there because my wife is one of those weird alien types of people that can have one little square of chocolate and then leave the block for a week or something like that. So, you know, I don't want to take that away from her. And actually, if you go up there right now and have a look, you'll see a chocolate Easter bunny. Who can imagine that an Easter bunny, chocolate Easter bunny, can survive this long since Easter? There's no chance it would have survived even one day with me before, you know, a few years ago. But yeah, my wife can do that. But anyway, this top shelf of the fridge door where the chocolate was in the beginning was a source of fear for me. So when I was hungry and it was time to eat potatoes, because I was eating only potatoes, remember? And in the beginning, it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to get some potatoes and I'm going to open the fridge door and there's going to be chocolate there. And what am I going to do? This is going to be too hard. And it was real fear. It was like, this chocolate shelf is going to be the end of me. I don't know how to get through it. And one day I was out for, I think I was walking to the shop or something, and I was thinking about my time as an elite athlete in the past. And I was thinking about, okay, if you want to get better, kayaking was my sport. If you want to get better at kayaking, what's the best thing to do? Well, go kayaking. That's the answer. Go kayaking. If you want to get better at push-ups, what's the best thing you can do? Go do push-ups, of course. If you want to get better at running, what's the best thing you can do? Of course, go running. You know, it's a obvious, these are obvious answers. If you want to get better at beating cravings, what's the best thing you can do? Well, beat cravings. The best thing you can do to get better at cravings is to face cravings and beat them. So I started thinking, okay, when I open the fridge door and I see the chocolate there, that's actually a bit like going to the gym to lift weights to get stronger. I can see that chocolate and I can face it, and I can use it as an opportunity to practice beating cravings and to practice saying no to that stuff that I shouldn't be eating. And I started thinking about it. It's just like a gym. I started thinking about it. This is my cravings gym. So like when you go to the gym and you've got to do a workout, before you go there, you're often thinking, not all the time, sometimes you like going there, but sometimes you're thinking, oh, I don't really want to do this. I've had a hard day at work and I'm tired and I just really don't want to get sweaty and this is going to hurt and it's going to be, oh, I'm just not interested in the gym today. I just don't want to do it. And then you go to the gym and you work hard and you sweat and you get it done anyway. And then when you leave the gym, you're like, yeah, I'm glad I did that. I'm a little bit stronger now. I worked hard. I did that workout. I've built my muscles. I'm a little bit stronger now than I was before. I'm a little bit better at lifting weights than I was before. And it's because I faced that challenge and I got through it and now I'm better at it. So when I went to the fridge from that point on, after I had these thoughts of myself, I would take 2 or 3 seconds at the most to pause and think, now I'm going to the cravings gym. And it's a little subtle mindset switch. Instead of looking at that chocolate shelf as a source of fear and a worry and a chance to fail and throw me off track, it now became an opportunity where I could test myself and get stronger and use that as my cravings gym. And I would know that this is not going to be fun. I'm not going to enjoy it. It's going to be uncomfortable. But once I close that door and leave with potatoes in my hand and no chocolate, I will be a little bit better at dealing with that situation. And it was an opportunity to face that and progress through and get stronger. So yeah, that's the second tip. Use the cravings gym instead of worrying about events or situations or what am I going to do when so-and-so brings out, their lunch at work that's got chocolate and stuff. Take a moment, pause, think, I'm now going to my cravings gym. It's going to make me stronger. And then you go and face it and just flick a switch. There's nothing in reality, nothing changes about the situation except the approach that you have to it. So that was a really important thing for me, and I hope that's helpful for you guys. Now, I've got 2 more things, but I'm happy to stop anytime if I'm taking up too much time. Now, the next thing that I like to keep in mind is this idea that maybe if people watching know me, they know make your food boring and your life interesting. So we spend so much time trying to make every meal a gourmet event. Every meal has to be, you know, an orgasmic experience, a gastronomic, you know, extravaganza. And, you know, there's these Master Chef TV shows and all that. And I think it takes our focus away from living life. You know, it's a distraction. All of these gourmet food, yeah, gourmet food's nice and it's good to enjoy your food, but it really, for many people like me and probably like lots of people watching, it distracts you from life because you spend so much time focusing on, okay, what am I going to have for my next meal? How do I have the ingredients? Can I get them? When can I go shopping? And you know, where's the next cookbook or the next restaurant or the next cafe? And so much of our energy and time is taken up with food. And it's amazing to me, and this is not something that I expected before it happened, but when you remove that food from your life and you just eat something boring like potatoes, you're forced to look for other areas to get comfort and enjoyment and emotional support instead of having to turn to food for those things. And you find yourself searching for comfort, enjoyment, and emotional support in areas outside of food. And it's a beautiful thing. For me, that was a massive and amazing thing. So, yeah, make your food boring and your life interesting. And it's not necessarily about that your food has to be as boring as possible all the time. It's just that it needs to take a back seat. Put food in its place, you know, in the background. It's okay to enjoy it. It's okay to have a fun time and an interesting time with food, but don't allow that to be your only source of comfort, enjoyment, and emotional support. You know, look for other things you can do. Live your life instead of living for food, if that makes sense. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was my favorite saying that I came up with early on in that year, and that is, if you don't sacrifice for what you want, then what you want becomes the sacrifice. That's a really important one for me, because when we think about, I don't know if I want to give up chocolate cake, or people are worried about, I don't know if I want to give up chocolate cake, or I don't know if I want to give up, you know, my favorite meal at my favorite restaurant, or, you know, all these sorts of things. We're focusing on the sacrifice and we're worried about what we're going to be giving up. And it's really important to understand that in life, we never get to, this is never a one-sided equation. You never get to choose between either sacrifice the cake or don't sacrifice it. It's not the choice. It never is the choice. It never has been the choice. The choice is either sacrifice the chocolate cake or sacrifice your long-term health and happiness. Sacrifice that meal at the restaurant or sacrifice your long-term health and happiness. We're always choosing between two things. Every decision you ever make, you're gonna sacrifice one thing to get something else. It's not just sacrifice that or don't. It's sacrifice that or sacrifice that. So yeah, that was a big, important mindset change for me, that if you don't sacrifice for what you want, then what you want becomes the sacrifice. So when you're faced with these decisions, take the time to think that through and really understand what you're going to be getting by giving up that thing. And yeah, that's a really important thing for me. So I hope those are my 4 things that I wanted to talk about. I'm happy to answer questions or, you know, stay as long as you want. But yeah, if you want more information about me, check out spudfit.com. And, you know, you can also, you can sign up for free and get like a little mini course. I've got an online course, a bit like what Christin had, what she mentioned before. And yeah, you can get a sort of taster course and a few little freebies if you want to sign up for that at my website. And yeah, and you can also just contact me. I'm Spudfit on all the social medias. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and I hope that's been helpful.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we did just, if you go on our Facebook page, we did just post Spudfit's cookbook and a couple of resources. So if you just go on PBNSG's Facebook, you can find that as well.
You know, a couple of things, Spud, awesome. You know, he didn't tell you that he's going back to become a doctor. So as he put it earlier, he's 6 weeks into 7 years. But he said that when he's done, he's going to make sure as a doctor that he shares the whole food plant-based health story with his patients. And that's what's needed the very most. Everybody knows that that has been kind of a little bugaboo of mine for a long, long time, that we need to have the health professionals, starting with doctors, be able to tell their patients, hey, before I give you this pill, here, let me give you a shopping list of food that you should consider. But now
Yeah,
it's time for,
absolutely.
time for questions. Brett, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. Yeah,
go ahead.
definitely. No problem at all. Tim Marie, if you want to unmute now and just ask your question to Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hello, long time no see. Good to see you, Timmery.
It's been a long time. I wanted you to be able to tell something that you shared at Dr. McDougall when I first met you, how you shared what goes through your head when you think about taking a bite of the chocolate cake. You remember how you explained how your mind goes super fast through what happens? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, that was really amazingly impactful. So I want everybody to hear that.
Yeah, so I do it as a meditation. I teach this as a meditation with my coaching clients, and it originated as a meditation that I came up with for myself. So I can do a long version that takes 10 or 15 minutes, but we're not going to do that now. When I think about having a chocolate cake, as you mentioned, I go through a few stages. And the first thing is to think about, when I eat the chocolate cake, yeah, it's going to taste great. It's going to be amazing. There's no point trying to say that it's not a good eating experience. Of course it is. That's why you eat it. It's a great eating experience. It tastes amazing. It makes you feel good. It gives you that foodgasm, I like to say. And yeah, it's a great eating experience. But what happens next? You know, when we're emotional eating, we focus on fixing our emotions in that moment of, if I eat this chocolate cake, it'll make me feel good. Yes, it will. It will make you feel good in that moment. What happens next? So I quickly, before I make these decisions, I go through what's going to happen next. So if I think about 10 minutes later, how am I going to feel? How's my emotion? Since it's an emotional eating decision, how will my emotions be in 10 minutes time? Well, that little bit of, regret and remorse will start to kick in. And what about an hour's time? Well, I'll be sitting on the couch with my belt undone, and I'll be food coma, and I'll be starting to regret. I'll be like, oh, what have I done? I've ruined everything. I'm a loser. All this sort of emotions will be kicking in. What happens at nighttime? Oh, I can't get to sleep because I've eaten chocolate cake and I've just ruined everything. And, and then what happens the next day? Well, my sleep quality was poor because my body was dealing with this cake that it doesn't really know how to digest properly. And I'm feeling negative about life the next morning. And, the next day I'm just trying to get through the day. And what happens in 6 months' time if I've made that decision repeatedly? Well, I'm just, I'm 10 kilos, 20 pounds heavier, and I'm, more depressed and all of that. Flip it around. What if I choose potatoes instead of chocolate cake? How am I feeling? It's not that great an eating experience. It's pretty boring. Like, who cares? It's just potatoes. Like, oh, I'd rather eat the chocolate cake. Of course I would. But what happens 10 minutes later? Well, 10 minutes later, I've got energy. I've eaten potatoes and I'm feeling good about having made that decision. An hour later, well, I'm not stuck on the couch in a food coma. I've got energy. I could go for a run if I wanted to. I can play with my kids. I can do all that sort of stuff. At nighttime, when I put my head on the pillow, there's not that internal argument going on where I'm going, oh, I've stuffed everything up. I'm a loser, all that. I'm just feeling good about life and I drift off to sleep easier. The next day, I've got energy. I'm feeling good about myself and I'm ready to tackle the day instead of just survive it. And then in 6 months' time, having made that decision repeatedly over and over and over again, I've lost weight. I'm feeling good. My depression's gone. I've got energy. All of this sort of stuff's happening. So it's important to really boil it down that this emotional eating decision it's not just about this little moment when you're eating. It's about taking in the entirety of the emotional eating experience, which lasts for 6 months or more. And, really, it's not, you're not being fair on yourself if you only look at that moment in time where you're enjoying the taste and all that. You got to take in the entire emotional eating experience. So there you go. That's, and you can do that in a few seconds, if you're just thinking about it yourself.
That's super motivational, really impactful. Thank you for sharing that. Good call, Tim Marie.
Yeah, let me just throw a couple things on that. You'll just enjoy this. Number one is, it's amazing when people do their like 10-day kickstart, 7-day, 14-day. My big thing I've always said is, let's do it for 60 days. I mean, you can do anything you do for 60 days, but you do it for 14 days. On the 13th day, you're planning your bad meal. On the 21st day, on the 20th day, you're planning your bad meal. You go 60 days and get a lipid panel done, 20 pounds lost, numbers are dropping, taste buds changed. So that's a thought on that. But the funny part is, Andrew, when you were talking about the chocolate versus the potato, I think about, maybe a year and a half ago, I had that moment where I had my whole family over there, like watching a football game, and I snuck in the other room where the big box of Hershey Kisses was, and I grabbed 10 of them in my mouth. I shoved them in my mouth like a chipmunk, and I just let them melt for 3.5 minutes. I was so happy. I remembered what chocolate tastes like. It had been like 5.5 years. And I just let it, I was just, take your tongue and your edges of your inside of your mouth. I was so happy. And then that night into the next morning, I had 3.5 hours of total misery. And I haven't had it since. So, I mean, it's like whatever it takes, but going in, and, hey, as a former cigarette smoker, I quit. Well, it took me a while, but it's been 20 years. It's been a long time. So you could do that. This is just a little tougher, but you could do it because you're the beneficiary of your health. And I could say at being 62 years young, I have never, ever felt better. More questions, please.
Yeah, we have a question from Robert. Taylor, Andrew, did you eat plain baked potatoes with nothing added, correct?
Yeah, most of the time what I ate was just plain potatoes, either baked or boiled with nothing added. But I did occasionally have some salt, pepper, herbs and spices. Maybe a little bit of ketchup or something like that. But all of those things are very, very minimal. It was just like, when my fear in the beginning was that I would just lose my mind. I'd never done anything crazy like this. So I wanted to allow myself a little bit of variety from time to time by having a little bit of something else to give it a little bit of flavor. But I really focused as much as possible on just eating plain potatoes and then save those flavors for when I felt like I was going to lose it.
Yeah,
but,
makes sense.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and as the year went on, I used flavors less and less because I was just more and more comfortable with just eating plain potatoes but do what you got to do to get through it. I say, if you need to add a little bit of sauce or a little bit of flavoring, do it, but aim to do it as minimally as possible. Yeah.
It's like everyone needs to have that trick to get through it. And just to share everybody quickly, mine is I literally drink a gallon of water in the morning. I drink a gallon. Now, what does that mean? I'm in the bathroom a lot early, but I don't eat as much, and I can take my whole day. So I'm saying, Andrew, it could be like, before I do this thing, I'm going to have the potatoes, whatever it takes, get there, just get there.
Yep.
Right. Last
Exactly.
couple.
Yeah. Adding to that last question, Karen wanted to know, Andrew, what kind of potatoes were you eating? Were you eating a variety of them, or is it just like russet or?
Yeah, just whatever potatoes. Yeah, I just got whatever was cheapest at the shop. That's so nothing in particular. But yeah, white potatoes, sweet potatoes. I ate mostly white potatoes and just occasionally a sweet potato. But just any kinds of potatoes. Yeah.
Got it. And then BJ wanted to know, were you taking any vitamin supplements at the time?
I took vitamin B12 and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing more.
Potatoes have a lot of vitamins in them.
Yeah, potatoes provide everything else. And, in theory, if you had only organic potatoes and you didn't do an amazing job of washing them, so there was still a little bit of dirt on, then in theory, you could get the B12 as well. But I didn't really want to mess around with that. I just take the B12. It's easy. So I just did that and everything else was good.
Man, I appreciate your time. That was the last question we had.
All right, wonderful.
Okay.
Everybody, we're going to do this again next month. Again, get involved. Okay. By the way, we're allowing volunteers. Okay. Get a hold of us. We are going to get through this. And when we do, we want to see every one of you. So hopefully you enjoyed this today. We're going to keep doing it. Look at the speakers. They're amazing. We've got the Sprout Club. We've got the book. We got the t-shirt. And we've got you. So all I could say is whatever you do, just please be safe. Okay. Thank you, everybody,
Paul-
for being here today.
Paul-
Thank you.
Paul, I'd just like to thank everybody also for coming, and Christian, Andrew, and Pauline for sharing your stories. You're an inspiration to all. Join the Sprout Club. Appreciate you all coming on down. And thank you for being there for us as well, Paul. You certainly have set the stage for something big and growing. We're here.
Thank you. Bye, all. Be safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Andrew,
Thanks,
Andrew,
everyone.
we'll see each other again soon. I'll be stalking
Yes.
you down the road, okay?
No worries. I'm happy to
Minnesota.
come back anytime. Thank you very
All right.
much for having me, and sleep well, everybody. I'm going to go and begin my day now. I'm in a different time zone, so
All right.
enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.